Welcome to the penultimate round of Grid Life here in 2025. We've hit the West Coast in beautiful, sunny California, where WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca championship season is in full effect here at one of the most iconic racing venues anywhere in the world. And track time is as important now as it has been all throughout the season. Let's go learn a little bit more about one of the best racetracks in the country.
The magnificent Pacific coast of California. Today, we move inland over the majestic hills into the internationally known Laguna Seca.
The corner behind me here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca is one of the most famous corners on the planet. It's a 4-story drop that everybody always talks about whenever you come here. There are some corners globally that are just recognized by name. Eau Rouge, 130R, Curva Grande, and the Corkscrew. But sometimes it's the corners that are less talked about that are even more impressive. The original configuration took drivers through a very fast downhill left kink at turn 1, which cut through to what is now turn 5. It was an incredibly fast sequence with a huge compression, and speeds climbed over 150 miles an hour before the left-hander after the bridge at turn 6. The original track was 1.9 miles in length, but in order to satisfy MotoGP's minimum track length requirements, they added about 4/10 of a mile, including Andretti hairpin turns 3, 4, and 5, bringing the total length of the track up to about 2.24 miles in 1988. This is turn 6. It doesn't have a name or the global recognition of the Corkscrew just up the hill, but what it does have is this huge compression here, this massive curb on the inside. It requires so much precision to get this just right. If you miss the apex by a foot, you're off by 20 feet at the exit. And if you get a little too tight to the apex, you hit this thing, this big nasty yellow curb, and this will send you for the ride of a lifetime here at Laguna Seca. The entrance to turn 6 is blind and incredibly fast under the bridge, and when you finally get to the corner, you hit the ground so hard in this compression as the banking falls away from you that the cars actually gouge the racetrack. There's lines drilled into the pavement here from cars slamming this lap after lap after lap. It's a true test of a car setup and a driver's bravery.
Over my shoulder, thousands of spectators are getting ready to watch the world's fastest sports cars as they blaze around this road course. 25 of the world's best drivers, 14,000 horsepower waiting to be let loose. The Laguna Seca Can-Am race is about to get underway.
WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, 2.238 miles in the 8th round of 9 in the 2025 Grid Life calendar. Around this racetrack, turn 1 is a downhill left-hand kink into the famous Andretti hairpin added in 1988. Then into turn 3, it's a right-hand flick up to turn 4. Jacob Gettins, as you head up to turn 5, this is such a fast racetrack here, and you head up the hill here in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, it's iconic for a reason, and we talked about that beautiful turn 6, which really does set you up for the Corkscrew. If you've ever been around this track, even in a video game, you know, lining that up is arguably more important than the Corkscrew. It's got a beautiful name, it's got a beautiful history, but there's so many other corners on this track that I think need a little bit more recognition, as you've already alluded to.
Yeah, certainly. 4-story drop down to the Corkscrew, then to Rainy Curve, another spectacular sequence here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Then to turn 10, another unnamed corner that is absolutely spectacular to drive, and almost a hairpin at turn 11. It's a sharp left-hand turn that leads you back around this 2.238-mile racetrack. And of course, this is round 8 of 9, but our 7th round was just a couple of weeks ago at Grid Life Chicagoland at Autobahn Country Club. And in just a moment, we're going to take a look back at some of the highlights from our competition series before they packed up their cars and headed all the way out west here to California. The Grid Life Rush Series competed there, not for points, but for trophies here. It wasn't a round that counted for championship standings, so up in the front, it was Bryce Mersberger and Jalen Batley who battled again all weekend long. It was really just a battle between these two. Mersberger trying to pick up another win after getting his first win of the season at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Jalen Batley threw it in there a couple of times. Then Jason Ayler was battling pretty fiercely throughout the event as well, but Mersberger drove away and not only won race 1 and 2, but also managed to pick up races 3 and 4. Everyone else battling just for scraps, including Ayrton Grimm in that purple and orange number 2 car. That car new to him, but first time with that livery on debut, and ran up inside the top 5, had a pretty solid weekend there. Mersberger, though, again, sweeping the weekend at Autobahn Country Club, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but all 4 times, and almost a perfect point score, winning the weekend there. And Bryce Mersberger came up just shy, but both those drivers will be back here again this week at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca to compete for the championship, as this is our last round here in the points. And the Grid Life Touring Cup, the IBOC GLTC Series, also competed, this time 4 points, and Eric Cattell in that number 82 Hybrid Racing EG Honda Civic, geared up for battle against that guy, Matan Rosenberg, who was the championship leader. It was a pretty fierce field of 30 cars. You see Matt Waldbaum there on the front row as they took their first green flag of the weekend. But really the story, much like the GRIDLIFE Rush Series, was just two drivers, Eric Catil and Andy Smedegard, battling nose to tail, lap after lap, including some epic battles through turn 13. And throughout the weekend, there was a couple middle-sized incidents that we avoided mostly contact in, and Catil won the first race of the weekend. And then Andy Smedegard brought the battle to him a little bit later on, battling through turns 11 and 12. Carrying good speed around there in an FA24 swap FRS that won at Lime Rock Park. But Catil's goal was to win as many races as he could to set himself up for a successful season finale at Pittsburgh International Race Complex next month. Eric Catil won a number of races and ended up coming out on top of the point standings by 2 points over Matan Rosenberg. Then GRIDLIFE GT, the biggest field we've ever seen there, including IBOC GLTC competitor Eric Magnuson in that gold BMW M3. Colin King out front there in that number 21 Corvette, as well as an appearance by the Camborne Performance Ginetta G55. That was a fun car to watch, but battle back and forth all weekend long between Colin King. There was Chris DeLucia, who's come out all the way here to California to participate in this round in GRIDLIFE GT. But again, fantastic weekend of racing with a little bit of rain racing mixed in there, Jacob. So Autobahn Country Club setting us up for this West Coast swing, and there was a lot of great racing at Autobahn.
Yeah, I mean, the highlights speak for themselves on that. And now that we're moving all the way over to this side of the country, there's a lot of questions to be asked. I mean, the drivers that are here, the drivers that are prepared, as well as the attrition of the chassis at this point in time. We're so deep into the season, and a lot of these cars they've taken wear and tear. There's damage that's happened just between wheel-to-wheel racing, but also just the damage of having to go around all these tracks. And when you get to something like this, where we're now looking at maybe a little bit of elevation, we're looking at a lot of high speeds, we're looking at some crazy break-ins to these corners, it might become a war of the pits and who can keep things on track.
Certainly. Our first session of the day here will be the GRIDLIFE Track Battle Championship. And coming into this round here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, there are some points pictures that we have to pay attention to. First is going to be the Club SC Championship. It's Mike Jansen and Sam Dooling that are up at the pointy end. Mike Jansen shipped his car all the way here. Sam Dooling drove his car all the way here from Michigan.
I mean, that just shows what this type of racing is all about, too, where you're able to do that. And who knows, maybe those extra miles in, you can start to diagnose some things. Might be a bit of a strategic advantage on that. You know, you start hearing some clunks that maybe you don't get on the racetrack, and you pick them up while you're doing the highway. Certainly.
The other championship that has been fierce this season is the Falcon Club TR Championship. There's Mario Moroni leading with 87 points. He is here this weekend. No one else in the top 5 is here. But even if Mario wins the weekend and gets a track record, he's not going to be able to lock anything up here. Peter Granberg, Stan Feingold, and more, even Evan McLaren, if they win pit race, they can beat him. So Mario has to perform. He has to make it to podium sprint. And honestly, I think for a chance at a title, he has to win here this weekend. That's what's on the line.
Yeah, for sure. And that's going to carry with him, especially with, as you said, the points race being so tight in that top 5 already. I mean, we're looking at a 7-point spread, but I mean, that doesn't tell the whole story. Getting those track records, getting those wins in, that's what's going to do it for him. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, some drivers drive so much better under that type of pressure.
And then in track mod, this is another championship story we have to tell. Alan Patton won 4 events, and he has 4 track records. But note he has only 103 points. That's one shy of the maximum you can have, because one of his track records was at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, where it was the first time this rule set has been here. You don't get the extra point if you are just setting, not resetting a record. So Alan is one shy of a perfect score. Jackie Ding has the opportunity to snipe this from Alan Patton, but he has to win, get a track record here and at pit race. So if Jackie Ding finishes anywhere other than first and doesn't get a track record, there's no chance for him to win the title. And Alan Patton knows Jackie's here, and he's trying to figure out with his car in pieces right now in his garage how he's going to defend if Jackie wins this weekend.
Well, and Jackie is one of those competitors where it doesn't matter what chassis you're putting him in, it doesn't matter what he's doing. He is incredible and is a driver that performs that much better under pressure. So that is not a good place to be. Car apart and a Jackie Ding who is absolutely on form and knows that he's got to do one thing in order to take home this championship.
So as we head down to the racetrack here in just a moment's time, look at the sights of WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. We are so blessed to have fantastic weather here this weekend. And the first session we're going to see today is the GRIDLIFE Track Battle Heat number 1. And this is our podium sprint format here for the 3rd consecutive year in a row, Jacob. And you see on the progress chart here, we've got a long way to go until we get to podium sprint. The goal is be top 5 in your respective class to qualify for that podium sprint and go for the trophies. You can set a record in any session. And honestly, those morning sessions, heats 1 and 4 and 6 are going to be the prime sessions to go fast.
Well, and especially this being the first one, you got to start asking yourself, do we want to come out? Do we want to try and pump in that track record? How quickly do we want to set this? Or do we want to maybe hold back? Let's use today as a diagnostic, still stay mid-pack, try and fight for some of those best times, but get everything set up for tomorrow morning. And the weather's going to play so much into this as well. My first reading, tomorrow morning might be a slightly better morning to do it. We'll see, though. The weather here in California has been a little bit strange. Last night it looked like it was going to rain for a little bit, so you don't know what's going to happen. You think it's always going to be sunny and bright in California, but you never know. You never know. Things can change very quickly, especially because we are this close to the coast.
Yeah, see the green flag already there as we're getting set to go down to the racetrack in just a moment's time. But there's a look at the corkscrew, the famous 4-story drop that's been here since the track was built in 1957. And there's a look, 62-degree air temp, just a couple miles an hour of wind out of the north, but a little humid here this morning. But look at the precipitation, absolutely none. That's a radar image down there. We saw it in use at Autobahn. We do not see it in use today. That's good news for us.
Yeah, that's great. That's great news for right now. And I mean, things can change pretty quickly. As we said, being this close to the ocean, as somebody who lives next to the ocean now, it can look all great. It can say 0%, and then as the day changes, that can fluctuate, as well as the temperature, as well as the humidity. But for right now, these nice low temps, people are going to be using that. Make sure everything stays nice and cool.
All right, we've got Group D coming up here shortly. The first class that we're really going to be following is Falcon Club SC. This is a spec tire category using the Falcon RT 660 Plus tire. And have a look here at the key details of this. It's an entry-level category with bolt-on street cars that make about 25 pounds per horsepower there. You can have OEM aero only with the exception of side skirts and restricted mods. You can't really do a lot. We're talking brakes, we're talking coilovers, and that's basically it. Air intake if you want it. But again, you can't do a lot to these cars, but what they are is incredibly competitive. And even though these are entry-level vehicles, the competition is anything but.
Well, and it really comes down to a driver's race at this point. And when you're dealing with a much lower horsepower car, it becomes that momentum thing all the way through the track. It becomes a bit of a situation where you're like, okay, who's going to try and hold on to these corners maybe a little bit longer than they should? So you'll start to see drivers really pushing it, using the momentum, and just trying to stay off the brakes wherever possible.
There's Sam Dooling. We mentioned he drove his car all the way from Michigan to be here. This is the second year in a row that he's done this. And again, his goal is to beat Mike Jansen. You see Sam Dooling's car there is the silver number 370. Jansen is that black Honda Civic. And really, he's been talking all year about how that Civic has a big straight line advantage. That played into things like Road America, for example, where he was down 7 to 8 miles an hour on the straightaway with that taller Honda Fit. So his goal here this weekend is just to maximize the fact that this racetrack doesn't have a lot of long straightaways. And Sam mentioned that his braking is much better than Jansen.
Oh, interesting.
So,
okay.
But before we head out on the racetrack here, we did catch up with Sam Dooling earlier, and Jonathan Grace caught up. Jonathan, what you got?
Sam Dooling, one of the more unique entries in Club SC, and that's because this isn't just your race car, this is your Moto Transit to and from the track, and you've been driving this thing all around the country.
Heck yeah, man. 2,700 miles for this one, but I've gone to every event this year without a trailer, and I call it Test Fit, a little $500 beater we got a few years ago, and I love it. It's got 220,000 miles on it now, and budget-built race car, man. It's so much fun.
It's a unique challenge. Fit may be in the name of the car, but there's not a lot of room in these things, even with the seats and bits and bobs inside taken out. You probably have to be a little bit creative packing for the track.
Yeah, it's like a big thing of Tetris. If you check all this stuff behind us, canopies, a whole trailer full of stuff came in 2 Honda Fits. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of the last little bit of Grassroots that this paddock has to offer next to big old rigs and trailers. We're the only people who really live it on a budget anymore. So Sunday Cup representing the Grassroots over here, guys.
I love it. Sam Dooling making it work in the 370. He'll be out on track competing in Club SC, guys.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jonathan. And yeah, Sam, he's got a Dale helmet too, big open face helmet. I love it. And the pictures of Sam in that $500 Honda Fit. I mean, he absolutely, that car owes him nothing at this point.
And a little bit of a call out there to the other competitors as well, just being like, you know what, I drove it here. This is, and this is kind of what Sunday Cup was built on as well. It was meant to be, and the spelling of Sunday can maybe give you a bit of an indication of what this is more meant to be, but it's meant to be fun. It's meant to be low budget. It's a great entry level into the sport, although looking through some of the drivers that are in it, no entry feeling in racing when it comes to these competitors.
On track right now is just the tail end of the GRIDLIFE Rush Series practice and warm-up here, so we're not going to cover this too much here because as they're just about head back in. I think they had an off that they had to clean up before we're going to get the track battle cars on the racetrack. You know, the one thing that's nice is so far we're on time, Jacob. The marine layer that comes in here off the ocean is definitely a threat to staying on time, but so far it's beautiful out there. I can see the whole track.
Yeah, was it 2 years ago when the fog came in so thick we had to delay everything pretty far back? I mean, it made for some incredible photos and some beautiful memories of barely being able to figure out where you parked. But it's yeah, having this nice, bright, wide open sky right now is going to lead to hopefully a great schedule. And as you alluded to, a bit of an off there between 10 and 11. Didn't catch who the driver was, but already starting to see some dirt drops. I mean, this is practice, but Rush, because of that spec class, they're going to try and use every inch of the race course that they can.
Yeah, and again, we'll talk more about this when we get into their qualifying tomorrow, but these cars, 150 horsepower, GSX motorcycle engine in them. They weigh next to nothing, and they're really, really fun cars to watch. We have a 40-car grid for this weekend, including drivers like TJ Hunt. Cole Gamma's back after battling last year. Of course, Ryan Leach and Andy Vogel, the championship leaders. So there are lots of storylines and discussion when we get to it. The races here last year were thrilling. There was also a lot of body work that was exchanged, so I'm excited to see what these guys do when they get their elbows out.
Well, when you've got a track with like this, you start to think like, oh, I've got lots of room, I can make this dive. But as drivers are coming through and as you have to attack some of these corners, you're using all of the track. So if maybe you misjudge where that racing line is and someone's coming to come outside wide to then cut in for the apex, you start to misjudge, just how much room you've got. So that may end up leading to a bit more body work, as you said, as it looks like we've got a car shut down on track. So interesting. We'll see who that is. That looks like it's coming into 3.
That could be Bryce Mersberger, the driver that swept at Autobahn Country Club. And
interesting.
That would not be a good start to his weekend. These cars have been pretty reliable. Again, we got 40 of them out there, though. So if you have any sort of issues, they can compound when you've got more and more and more of them out there.
Yeah, as we alluded to in the intro, as we get through this season, especially any of these cars, the spec cars, when you especially get into some of the downforce cars, they get worn out. They get worn out. Suspension gets worn out. Whenever you've got a car with any amount of downforce, you're always sitting in compression, especially on these long straights. Things start breaking that way, as well as it is a fast track. The engines aren't massive in these, but you're going to start running them at red line through large sections of this track. Things start breaking. So it's an interesting schedule to have this track at this time of year, and I would not be shocked if we see a few more breakdowns before this weekend's over.
Yeah, and this is the season finale for the GridLife Rush Series National Championship as well. They've had a couple non-points rounds, including Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Autobahn Country Club, and Pittsburgh International Race Complex, but this is where it all wraps up this weekend. Of course, Ryan Leach is well ahead of Andy Vogel in the championship standings, but you talked about the reliability issues you could have this late in the season. Honestly, for Ryan Leach, he won the first 12 races of the season, and then it was not as great from there on out. So who knows what's on tap this weekend, but if he doesn't score any points, and that's a possibility with 40 cars in the field, Andy Vogel still could mathematically catch him, and that would be a huge upset after the start of the season Leach had.
Well, that's the best part about racing is that happens all the time. We're like, we think we know what the storyline's going to be, and then all it takes is a mechanical failure, a spin out, or contact with somebody else back in the pack, right? You think you're on a heater, somebody's coming up that's on a bit better of a line, and all it takes is one missed mirror check, and that's it. Yeah, so the Time Attack Group D cars are lining up here on the grid now. This is our first scheduled coverage for the day, and we're split into 4 groups like we typically are, D through A, and these are organized by pace. Of course, the first heat of the weekend, Jacob, we don't always know what drivers are going to run as far as lap times, so we could see traffic management be sort of an issue here this morning, and though it's the first session of the weekend, it's still a prime opportunity to go quickly because of the cool temps. Yeah, as we said, there's a lot of strategy that comes into play now. Do you feel like the car is diagnosed enough? Do you feel like it's locked in? Did you take that time before you got to that event to make sure everything is sorted? Or is this your time to be doing that? Is this time to check on things, maybe ensure that whatever that check engine light is not anything too serious, especially as we're in kind of this slower class. A lot of these, they're holding on to almost everything OEM. So we all know what it's like running an OEM car because most of us are doing it day to day. You have to figure out, okay, am I in a place where I really want to push this? And when you start pushing like that, am I ready to bin the car this early in the weekend? Because those are the runs that often set the track records, are the runs where you feel like they're going to bin it at any moment. Well, the Group D cars are there. We're just waiting for the tail end of the rush cars to come off the racetrack. There's Juliet on the pit lane there getting ready to go. On the front of this group is Richmond Leos in the number 336
BMW Street GT car. Now, again, we talked about how these are organized by group, and all of the Club SC cars that we talked about are in this group, and they're going to have quite a bit of horsepower in front of them. So getting space around this 2.24 mile racetrack, this is not huge. I mean, you might think of Laguna Seca as a large racetrack because it sort of covers a pretty wide area, but it's not that long. It's actually really similar to Gingerman Raceway, which is our home event. So the difference is Gingerman Raceway, you can see all of it. Yeah. So you can't see all of it here because it's obscured by the mountains there. And here's a look at the car that's actually the number 2 car, or the number 12 rather, on the entry list, which is not one of our normal competitors. Oh, it is.
That's
Brett DiGiacomo.
Yeah. So what's interesting though, I mean, that car's been pretty reliable for him. I'm not seeing any DNFs in the last few rounds. So whatever this mechanical is must be new for him.
So GRIDLIFE Track Battle is about to begin here from WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. At WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, one of the racetracks that everybody always wanted to drive in real life. It's a track that you've driven in Forza. How many laps have we all done there? Imagining getting to take the corkscrew yourself. But, you know, my first experience here, Jacob, was riding around here with Matan Rosenberg in 2023. And, you know, everyone talked about the corkscrew, and that's why I focused at turn 6 in my track preview, because, honestly, the corkscrew is only the 3rd best corner here. That shows you how cool this racetrack really is.
Yeah, I completely agree. That was my first time on this track as well. I took a little bit different of a style of doing it. I went out with Simon Olsen in a drift car, FD level car, and yeah, I mean, my background obviously in drifting, so if I'm going to do the track, that's how I'm going to do it. But yeah, it's wild. We talk about the corkscrew, but there are so many incredible corners. 9, Rainy Corner, coming through there, it's just such a weird experience because you just pop out and then you see, you know, the entire paddock that's nestled into the center of this track. Because now we get a few of these cars out on track, so we're going to get this opening lap under the way, and then we'll start to see who's going to come at this. Where's the spacing going to be? As we get, I mean, loving that color.
Yeah, that's Courtney Ward in the 393, and I was chatting with her last night, and I asked her what she was driving. She said, "Oh, I'm driving the Club SC in a Honda Fit," and I was like, "Is it the teal one? Because that thing's awesome." And she's like, "Yes, it is." So she's really excited to be here, and as far as our different categories we've got on track, it's going to be mostly Club SC, like we talked about, but there's also some Street GT and Street Class entries, and what you're looking for here is the color of the stickers. The pink is the Club SC category, then the blue is our Street Class, and the yellow, or the gold, is Street GT. Now, Street and Street GT are actually fairly similar in the rule sets, but no V8s in Street Class, and really Street GT is designed for the 6, 8, and 10 cylinder engine. Street Class is mostly turbocharged 4-cylinder stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, so a bit of a separation between those two. And I mean, with that big, long straight as well, I can see how that separation may work out here. There is just a lot of spots in this track, especially coming downhill to pick up a ton of speed. If you have that higher displacement as well, you're going to be able to really, really push through that pace. And yeah, we might see maybe a bit more of a separation between those classes at this track specifically.
So one of the cars out there is a Street Class Ford Fiesta, and this is a car that we haven't really seen a lot in the GRIDLIFE Track Battle Championship, or not as much as we probably should. I think they're great little cars. I think this is Dale Fredericks in a 2018 Ford Fiesta, the number 283 car. And again, the Fiesta is very lightweight front-wheel drive platform. I think this is going to be an ST as well, turbocharged car. And man, I wish that Ford still made them, because the Focus and Fiesta were such great, enthusiast cars, and the Fiesta in particular, the lighter weight of the two.
Yeah, I actually daily drove a Fiesta SE for a long time. I mean, no turbo, nothing crazy about it, but just a car you can throw into corners, you can have a lot of fun with, and they're fairly forgiving, especially on the manual side. The automatics had a massive amount of issues with it. They tried to adapt basically a twin clutch manual transmission and then let it run by servos. And yeah,
I knew someone that owned one of those and had problems with it too.
I went through 3 transmissions through mine, and I still liked it. It was still a fun car. And yeah, I am shocked. Maybe now that they're not in production, the cost of them is going to come down even further. I think you can buy them for like $3 grand now. But it's one of those, who's jumping in the aftermarket? That's going to be the big question, because if there's no aftermarket support for it, we're not seeing a ton of parts for it, us enthusiasts are less likely to be able to jump onto it as a platform.
So, a number of BMWs here this weekend. I think just looking in the paddock, I would venture to say that BMW is probably the most represented manufacturer. Maybe maybe a close second to Honda this weekend. There's a lot of BMW M cars out here, a lot of E46s in particular. So we'll get to watch those in basically every class here this weekend. There's Courtney Ward climbing up the hill there in that Honda Fit, and I imagine turn 6, maybe you're lifting. It might be flat out in these cars, though.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see just going in for that dive.
Little lockup for Mike Jansen going down into the corkscrew, and he struggled with that at Autobahn Country Club as well. And there's TJ Keon, by the way, in this Ford Crown Victoria. And
love it.
If you're ever wondering, do I have the car that is suitable for time attack? If the answer is no, the answer is still yes.
Yes.
TJ Keon in this Ford Crown Vic gets a lot of miles out of this thing. And honestly, it's a great platform. Our buddy Tom O'Gorman always talks about it's such a great platform to learn rear-wheel drive because it's so soft and compliant. And though it might not have the pointiest nose ever, it really teaches you how to handle weight management.
Well, it gives you time to think as well with a chassis like that. When it's a little bit floatier, you're not worried. I mean, it might step out if you really, really want to throw that thing around, but yeah, why not have something, as you said, that's a little bit more compliant and just maybe a little bit more fun to drive, right? It's going to be forgiving, that's for sure.
Have a look there at the lap times that we see so far. The first lap time of the day for Sam Dooling, a 1:53.910. That's about 2.5 seconds off of the track record, but we're quickly going to see that drop. And as you're watching the ticker here today, if you see a green wipe, that is a personal improvement. If you see a yellow flash, that means that the driver has crossed the line without a pickup or improvement on their lap time. So also Alexis Fregoso's out there in that beautiful Acura RSX with the Gathers livery on it, the kind of classic touring car paint scheme. Love that car, and Fregoso is one of the competitors in that Falcon Club TR class that is one of our most popular categories out in the Midwest.
Yeah, I really love low budget racing. It allows you to cut your teeth into it without as much of a budget as we saw. Plenty of competitors driving all the way coast to coast to come out here. So why not, right? Why not do something that's going to be maybe a bit lower cost? Basically race it until you can outdrive the car and then start to move up. And that's one of the beautiful things as well with GridLife is you can pick a chassis pretty early on, run it through a couple of different classes. You might have to upgrade a little bit later, but why not? And I mean, to me, the Honda Fit, it's kind of that pinnacle GridLife feel because it's low budget. They seem to handle really well. I mean, it's just a giant wedge coming through the track, and it's just fun to see something like that ripping around on such a big track.
Here comes Sam Dooling up onto the front straightaway. Now watch that lap time. It's going to be checker flag here on this first group. Not a ton of laps this morning because of the slight delay we're in. And Dooling comes across the stripe, and it's a pickup and already a new track record, 150.229 for Sam Dooling. So in the first session of the weekend, resets it by about a second, I think. So that's a great start.
Well, that also tells me there's a bit more time left out on this track right now, especially as we start to get through. Now, as we get into some warmer sessions, you may not see that as much, but tomorrow morning and then Sunday morning, maybe the big times we really want to start looking at.
And so that didn't take very long, did it? And notably, Mike Jansen, this is his first time here in a Club TR car, or a Club SC car. Might be his first time here ever. And he's only at a 155.7, and he has been, trouble for the 140 car, which...
Talking about cars that maybe less compliant, something that does like to step out.
Yeah, the 140, it's Miguel Arandulas in the 2001 Honda S2000 in Falcon Club TR, and that was at turn 3, I believe, which is a pretty flat corner, not a lot of camber. And if you get the braking wrong there and tip it in, often you can drop a wheel on the left too, and that makes things a little tricky to hang on to.
Yeah, I can see that. And an S2000 is a difficult vehicle once it decides it wants to step out. You can try and stay into it. You can pull a little bit of a drift, which we're going to get into a little bit later on. But ultimately, it's just it's not a chassis that really does well with that snap oversteer.
Yeah, there's Bob Miller, by the way, in the Kia Rio. We talk about cars that are eligible in Falcon Club SC, and the Kia Rio is one of those cars that you would have seen, maybe in something like B-Spec, right? So another car that's pretty close to the 25 pounds per horsepower weight balance. And getting off to a pretty good start, 2 minutes, 0.257, as there's Alexis Fregoso coming back to the checkers in Falcon Club TR. I have a feeling there was some late registrations here, Jacob, and I think there's some cars that don't have their classes assigned, so that's why we're not seeing them in the Club TR category, though they're on track. And Joe Drain in the 587 BMW does a 138.7 in Street GT.
Yeah, it's a nice pickup there. Spread on that's not too bad. We're talking about 5/10 or so. So same thing. We're going to start to see a couple of these lap times start to tumble. taking a look at Teslas. Are you starting to see more and more Teslas invading this space, if you will?
You know, we've seen for a while, I think it was like 2022 and 23, we saw a lot of Model 3s. And I think there's still, you know, something to be said about how they perform in Street GT and Street Class in particular. They're really good cars. We had one, I believe, win the championship a couple years ago with Tony Barber behind the wheel. And, you know, we have an all-EV class, a TrackBattle EV, which is not actually very well subscribed. I don't even think most people know about it. It's still in the rules.
Yeah.
But those drivers have basically told us resoundingly that they want to battle against everybody else. And so we typically see them in Street Class or Street GT. And I think they're really a great weapon. And they're so overbuilt as far as their suspension because they weigh so much that you can hammer curves all day long, really attack the racetrack, and you don't really get penalized for it. I've never seen one of these things break on track. So maybe that's something to be said. I think charging them can be tricky because you're using a ton of battery and you don't get that many laps before you start losing some performance.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ooh, TJ really hucking it in there in turn 5.
Yeah, talking about car wanting to step out. I have seen just with some of my travels more and more fast chargers being installed at tracks. So I mean I think it's on its way. I mean it's already here. Let's be honest. Yeah. I think it's definitely here, and maybe we'll start to see some of those classes break apart and they'll maybe find a competitive advantage. There's something in those chassis that just needs to be unlocked to really start cranking out times.
Here's Mike Jansen in the 156. Again, our Falcon Club, our Club SC class leader. And a 155, 192. We'll see if he can encroach a little bit sooner. And he comes out of turn 11. We'll talk track limits here in a minute. That was a discussion before the weekend as well that is worth talking about here because there is some extra pavement. And across the stripe for Jansen. Let's watch him on the bottom left of the screen. And it is a pickup, a 152.946. By the way, Sam Dooling reset the track record again just now, 149.856.
Yeah, that's we're starting to get to that point of like, okay, these are going to get a little bit tougher to beat now. But breaking over that 150, that's absolutely massive. Although, I mean, just barely doing it.
And there's, I think that's Joe Drain in the BMW, and he's at a 38.7, and the track record for rear-wheel drive in Street GT is a 33.
Okay.
So still got a ways to go to get there. And again, we're not going to necessarily be at the very pointy end of our Street GT class just yet because we have all the other groups yet to come. But that's going to tell us that we're going to break that record. If a driver in Group D in the first session of the day is already within 5 seconds, I'm sure we're going to break that pretty soon.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we'll start looking at a couple of more experienced drivers or drivers that have already been out here to this track. Or, I mean, I know we've got a ton of locals here as well. So could somebody come in and disrupt that's a native that's been out here a few times now and just knows this track a little bit better than anybody else does.
Here's Fregoso in that RSX. Love the livery on this. Such a great looking car.
Yeah.
In Falcon Club TR, which is really an enthusiast class built for common track day vehicles. You can do some engine swaps, a lot of K-Series equipment in there as well. TJ Keon in the Crown Victoria. I would not be opposed to throwing a light bar on that thing and have them go chase everybody.
No, I think that'd be great. I mean, if nothing else, if we need a pace car for a little bit later on, and I think this also goes to picking a chassis that's a bit more unique is going to almost inherently get you a little bit more screen time. If you got something that's a bit different, you know, a livery that's great or a car that's bright, the camera guys and the directors back in the booth, they just like picking stuff that looks cool. So, if this is your indication to make sure that your livery is ready to go for next year, I mean, take this as notice and do something awesome.
Yeah, headed up the hill towards the corkscrew. I think that's Jansen leading, maybe Courtney Ward on track in that number 393. Also, Matthew Reinhardt's out there in the 343. I didn't see him trip the timing and scoring, but he's another driver that drove all the way out here from the Michigan area. Here's Fregoso again, this front-wheel drive RSX. Now, front-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive in Club TR. This is not a power-to-weight class, but it's very similar in prep to GLTC. And what you see a lot of times is the front-wheel drive cars make a little more power to the wheels because they don't have all the drive shaft and things to go through. So on the long racetracks, the front-wheel drive cars are really advantageous there. But on a racetrack like this, I don't think that advantage is nearly as clear-cut.
So interesting. Would you think maybe something a little bit more technical that they can pull themselves through the track? They have a little bit of advantage just being front wheel?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to your differential setup and how responsive your diff is. Front wheel drive cars, you have to drive a little different if your diff doesn't pull you through the corner. It's very easy to get yourself a car that is pushy on power in the front drive machine. So, Alexis Fregoso in this RSX, I'm not exactly sure what engine and trans combination he's got in there, but these RSXs are pretty cool looking cars, and they're actually pretty light. And we'll see if Fregoso can pick up on that 141.312. That time he does, a 142.69.
All right, so still scrubbing a fair bit of pace out of that on that run.
See on the turn turn two braking rather, just that car wiggling in the rear, really pushing the limit on the brakes. And having ABS helps a lot at a track like this too, where you've got a lot of uphill and downhill braking zones, especially going into the corkscrew. The track kind of starts to fall away over the crest. And if you don't have ABS, as we saw Mike Jansen earlier, very easy to lock up. Here's Courtney Ward again, attacking turn 5.
Yeah, getting that front end dug in pretty well there. So, I mean, able to keep that traction on the front side of things. We talked about the front wheel drive, that weight over top of it. You can kind of dive into those corners a little bit more. You know, all of that is going to compress the front end. So, and I mean, getting back on power as well. You're not worried about the back end stepping out. So you can do it maybe just a little bit sooner than a couple other cars, but you're also going to be taking a slightly different line. So it's going to depend too. If you got a big pack of everybody else with rear wheel drives on a slightly different line than what you're running, you may be on a section of track that hasn't been rubbered in yet. There's been no development there. So got to wait for a few more front wheel drive cars to wrap around. But I mean, for right now, we're a lot of front wheel in this session.
Yeah, Bob Miller also picked up about 3.5 seconds from his previous best, and Courtney Ward out there just getting experience. For a lot of these drivers, it's the first time they've ever been here, and this is one of the big boy tracks, we'll call them, where you have to really get brave in a handful of corners to pick up time. And once you sort of get comfortable, I think Saturday and Sunday morning we're going to see that's going to be prime for the weather, and now you've got some laps under your belt. Here the conditions are prime, but the driver's not necessarily ready to go all out to the limit. I think Sam Dooling has the advantage of having been here before.
Yeah.
That has allowed him to attack a little bit more aggressively. Courtney picks up some time though, about a second and a half worth, and does a 158.599.
Yeah, you'll just pick up that confidence, and you'll stop thinking as much about driving and just driving through instinct. And you also start pushing your braking points back a little bit further, and you start looking at other drivers. Maybe you start watching some of the stream and come back and go, oh man, like I can really push this back a lot further than what I'm at. I'm being a little bit more hesitant than I need to be.
Yeah, I think, driver coaches will always ask, how do you approach the first lap at a racetrack? And if you have sim experience, that helps a lot too.
Yeah.
But, typically the accepted way that I've heard a lot of drivers coaches talk about approaching a racetrack is, pick a braking point that you know is too early, brake as hard as you can, and just see how much further you could have gone. And you keep moving that braking point forward and forward and forward until, or I guess backwards, closer to the corner, until you sort of run out of braking capability, and then that's really becomes your new braking point. But you have to also consider, is the track rubbered in, or are there marbles on the track? What's the temperature of the racetrack? So all those things factor into where you can brake. And then in something like a Club SC car, you're not really doing much braking at all.
Yeah, you may be lifting coast through a corner. I mean, in a lot of cases, you're powering through a lot of it. And I think the other part too, especially with this track, is some of the dust. It's very dry, as you said, like zero humidity. So even a small bit of wind can blow a very fine layer of dust across the track, and that can wreak havoc for a lot of drivers. So when you're running through some of these corners, having somebody within, let's say, 10 car lengths of you might actually be advantageous, because you can see what they're fighting with, you can see what they're struggling with. So finding a good position in the pack, especially early on when you're learning the track, can be great. If you can get in behind somebody that's holding that record, now you don't want to be necessarily having full vision and looking at what they're doing the whole time. You want to be keeping an eye out for the next apex, but you can start to see where somebody who is maybe a little bit faster than you wants to brake, or what they're cutting when it comes to these corners.
So checkered flag is finally out here in Group D of the first session. They saw a checker earlier. I don't know if that was thrown in error, but we now have the real checker flag, and cars are headed back down here to pit lane, and they'll roll back to the paddock. Now, Sam Dooling will be required to go over the scales as part of the track record breaking process. Anytime that a driver breaks a record, they will be scaled for compliance if their class has a power to weight ratio, which his does. So pending clearing the scales there, and usually you'll carry a little extra weight, but if you run a long session, you're burning a lot of fuel. Not that a fit burns all that much fuel, but you get the point. That's something that can pull you out of compliance here this weekend. So the compliance is done usually with the dyno, or we've got AIM solos that we'll put in the cars to basically measure the acceleration rate of a vehicle and compare it with known values. So you see Sam Dooling's record was a 151.433, and now the new track record for Falcon Club SC is 149.856, and we will see that record fall more times this weekend.
Yeah, guaranteed, especially with drivers, as we talked about, learning this track, getting that layout, and building that confidence. So we'll start to see how that develops over the next little bit. It'll be interesting. It's definitely something to follow along with. And if you're at home watching, you're in the paddock, start watching. Let's start thinking about times. What do you think is possible here? And I almost guarantee that whatever you think is possible, someone's still going to break that.
Yeah, I think the next focus, we've got Falcon Club TR cars a little bit higher up the order. Oh, no, do we not? I don't think we, maybe in Group B, or is Maroney out there? Okay, yeah, so Group C has all the rest of our Falcon Club TR cars. So we're going to be focusing on the Club TR record for this session here, because we've got about a half dozen, maybe a little bit more than that, Club TR machines, and I don't think any of them are in Groups B and A. So Mario Maroney is going to head out on the racetrack for the first time ever here in his career, and he's the championship leader by 1 point.
Yeah. Well, I guess as a driver too, you start thinking about, like, okay, what do I need to do session by session, lap by lap, and trying to focus too much on the entire championship or the entire season can maybe draw you out of where you need to be looking. It's now, okay, let's make sure I have a good warm up. Let's make sure there's no pings or dings or anything crazy going on with the car. Make sure everything feels nice and tight. Let's put in a good warm up. Make sure everything's up to temp, and then just go lap by lap. And you hear a lot of drivers talk about that. Like, I'm not focused on the points. I'm not focused on the season.
There's a look at how the standings are coming into this event, and you see Mario Maroney over by 1 point over Peter Granberg. Granberg came here last year and won, but Granberg couldn't. He had a work conflict, was not able to come out here to defend, so Mario can only extend his lead here this weekend. But everybody else on that list in the top 10 is not here, so Mario has got a great opportunity. But when you drive 3,000 miles across the country, he's out of Ohio, you don't want to squander this opportunity. Your fiercest competition is not here. So if he comes out of here without a win, I think that's going to be a missed opportunity for him.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be big. And taking a look at the vehicle breakdown on this, good mix-up, front wheel, rear wheel, really interesting. But what I'm kind of noticing is a lot of reliability in that list. Vehicles that have a lot of time put on them. Everybody's fully aware of what you can set up with them, and a lot of research. I mean, the FRS, BRZ, 86, whatever version of that you've got, we're at a point now where it's any increase when it comes to either the driving or the technology behind the suspension and everything else is incremental. All the big leaps and bounds, I feel like, have been done with that chassis. But I mean, when it comes to this type of racing, incremental is how you win everything.
So across the stripe here, Mario Maroney's in this blue and purple car. At the bottom of your screen there is him, and again, he's your championship leader, and it's his first time ever around WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Let's follow him for a lap here. He's got a little traffic ahead of him too, and one of the things we consistently see with Falcon Club TR cars is they're much faster through the corners than a lot of the heavier, bigger cars that are in the classes above it. So, we consistently see corner speeds higher than almost anything out there beyond Track Mod and Unlimited, which are on stickier tires. So Mario might have to contend with a little traffic, but right now looking good so far.
Do you think you start backing yourself up in the pack a little bit, see where you're at when it comes to that lineup on your warm-up lap, and then go, okay, well, I gotta make sure.
Look at this. This tries to figure this out. There's your street class championship leader, Josh Halka, in that 777 Turn-In Concepts car. He's also out of the Ohio area, so this has been a long trip for him. And again, the traffic, you're going to have to sort this out. The first heat of the weekend is just sorted by roughly what everyone thinks they're going to run.
Right.
And then the rest of the weekend, they'll be set by actually what you have run. So it'll clean things up a little bit from there on out.
Well, it also makes it a little bit more difficult to get that record done, because you might be 2-3 laps in before you finally find a spot in the pack that makes sense for where you need to be, whether that's too far forward or too far back. So it just takes a little bit more time, and it's always interesting as we get into these timing things when you're seeing a Civic against a Porsche, and then you start looking at track times. You're like, these are really not that far off, and as you alluded to, you can start to see some big leaps and bounds with a few of these drivers. So keep an eye on this Civic coming around. What corner are we looking at right now? Looks like
turn 10, yeah. And so while we're watching, Mario, let's talk a little bit about track limits, because what you're about to see come into this shot here is a bunch of green on corner exit. The way the track limits were described in the driver's meeting is you can use everything up to the outer white line. So if there's a white line present, that's the track limit. You can, as long as you keep a tire inside that boundary, you're good. But there are some places where there is runoff available where there is not an outer line. Turn 5 comes to mind, and you have to keep a tire in bounds there for that lap to count and be legal. First lap out for Maroney, only a 1:52.703. It's actually Jake Montanola that goes up to second right behind Alexis Fregoso. But they're 9 seconds off that 740, so just one lap in, you're not necessarily brave enough to go for that track record yet. And as far as records for Club TR, you'll see rear-wheel drive is the overall best record with that purple highlight, a 1:39.057. Honestly, Fregoso's not that far off, about a second. So first session of the weekend for Club TR also looking good.
Yeah, not too bad at all. As we also take a look, Street Mod Hernandez jumping up into second right now. I mean, still got a little bit more work to do, but I feel like the cars are now finally in a spot where they've shuffled themselves around. We're not seeing a bunch of kind of polite passing, if you will. I'm sure the passing will get a little bit more brave as things go, and we're taking a look as heading up towards that corkscrew, coming through 6. There's a few more vehicles trying to jockey into the correct position before heading down into the corkscrew. So vehicles they're getting themselves sorted at this point, so we'll start to hopefully see in the next few minutes of this a few of these track times start to come down.
One of the cars in Street Mod, I just got a message from Fez Bobber, one of our past Falcon Club TR competitors, is out there, the number 406. It is a Subaru BRZ with an LS3 and a BMW DCT. So
oh wow, okay.
That's a really cool build. That's I think that is Ravi Mirage. You see him P5 there on the Street Mod standings right now with yet to put a lap time down. A couple of our Falcon Club TR competitors here in those S2000s. There's the 676 car, which is Raul Brink. And there's a bunch of S2000s out there that are F20 or F22 Honda engines. You see a lot of K20 and K24 swapped S2s, but there's a handful of F20 and F22 cars, which is the original engine these cars would have shipped with. And they don't have as much torque, and they're a lot more expensive to replace.
Yeah.
But high revs,
yeah.
9,000.
And I mean, the upside obviously with the K series is we've got an immense amount of part selection for it, an immense amount of data. And it's one of those engines where you can go online and just decide, hey, this is how much power I want, this is how much money I want to spend, and put it all together.
There's a track mod entry out there as well. Didn't quite get a great look at that number. I believe that's going to be, to take a look at who we've got on course as far as track mod entries, but Corvette is king in GRIDLIFE as of late. It doesn't seem to matter what you're running. Oh, that's Josh Powers. Yep, in the gray car. Or is it? No, it might be Jessica Powers in the 191. It is Jessica Powers.
Jessica Powers, yep.
Yep, and they've got a couple different Corvettes out here this weekend. I think Josh's is blue, so we will see him a little bit later in the day as well. There's Maroney heading down the corkscrew again. He's closed in on Fregoso, 144.157, so getting a little braver on his second lap around.
Beautiful views that we've got with this. I mean, probably one of the best parts about this track. There's so many things that we can point towards, but it looks like every single camera angle we've got has some incredible vista that comes right out of a postcard. So that makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. Gardenapo in the number 721 comes across the line. Track mod's pretty tight. Jessica Powers leading the way right now with a 143.261 to a 143.871. So about half a second between those two cars. Maroney picked up to a 140.309, less than a tenth off of Fregoso here. So that battle is getting tighter and tighter.
Yeah, things are starting to stack up a little bit. Street GT, a little bit of a separation in that, although we're obviously not seeing the full list of drivers at this point, but starts to give you some ideas of where everyone's going to basically settle in when it comes to their times over the weekend.
Mario Maroney leading the championship. He's a long way from home, and earlier Jonathan caught up with him.
Another one of our track battle time attack competitors, this time in Club TR, Mario Maroney. You got a points lead, but it's a narrow one, just a single point here, penultimate round of the season, but a lot of your championship competitors are not present at WeatherTech Raceway in Laguna Seca. What are you going to try to do to maximize the weekend and give yourself the best shot heading into the last round?
So the goal here is to get the Club TR overall record. Hopefully, manage to rack up some points for the season, extend our lead in the championship. If I do win the event, that'll put me at 94 points. That will put me in a good spot for a pit race, the end of the season, where myself and other 3 competitors will battle it out, kind of like a last brawl to, clinch the championship title and bring some hardware home.
And tell me a little bit more for the folks that may just be tuning in at this point of the season about the pretty badass Civic you've been competing in all year.
Oh yeah, so this is a 1992 Honda Civic EG or EH. It's a K24 swapped. Lots of Acuity products here, such as a TPS, shifter, linkage, and fuel rail and oil cap. So IQVIA has been a huge part of my success throughout the years. They've been with me pretty much since the beginning. It's been a great relationship. I do also have some other sponsors like CycloSpeed, Levine, some of the California sponsors as well, like Procar Innovations, GPR Auto. So I'm really stoked that they've been on board on the program with me for a couple of years now, and I can't thank them enough.
Well, best of luck competing for track records and wins and success this weekend as we head into the sharp end of the season here.
Sir, thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Mario Moroni working his way up to the top of the board with a 138.273, and already that is going to be a new track record for the front-wheel drive subdivision of Falcon Club TR. So Moroni now holds that extra point that he needed to go off and potentially get that 26-point max effort he can here in Falcon Club TR if he can hold that record here this weekend. But again, just getting a fast time in session 1 isn't enough. You have to have at least one of these good laps to qualify in the top 5 for the podium sprint, and then when it comes podium sprint time, we scrub all the lap times, Jacob.
Yeah.
And it's whoever's fastest in that last session.
Yeah, it's interesting with that because it's kind of gone are the days of coming out, opening the trailer, putting down your warm-up, throwing down one heater of a lap, packing it back in the trailer, and sparking the barbecue. So it's a little bit different now, and I do love that like you've got to keep running. You've also got to go out and hit out a couple other sessions as well just to understand what the track conditions are going to be like, or at least what it's going to be like during the sprint. So really, really great setup that way, and it does it builds a bit more attrition in the race team as opposed to just building something that is great for one single lap or two laps over the period of a weekend.
Yeah, across the stripe here comes another Falcon Club TR car, this time a Toyota GR86. That's a 242 of Ramirez. He picked up a little bit of time. And when we look at Club TR, we've seen a lot of lightweight Honda Civics. We've seen FA24 swapped first generation BRZs and Toyota GR86s, but this is the GR86 as you get it from factory with that FA24 engine. And this second generation BRZ, GR86, whatever you want to call it, the twins, as I affectionately call them. These cars are so good for this class right out of the gate. You add some aero and you pull some weight out of it, and you're in a really good spot for this class.
Yeah, it's amazing. You just take out the rear seats and maybe some floor mats or something like that, and it's pretty much ready to go. And aero packages wise, you've kind of got your pick of the litter as well. People jumped on this chassis. It's been a little bit since we've gotten a really good rear wheel drive affordable chassis. So when these hit the market, I think we all knew how incredible they're going to be, and then we all just waited for them to come down in price.
Yeah, and I'm a first-gen owner. I love it, but it was sort of known for having a bit of an anemic engine with the FA20. Just didn't make a lot of torque in the mid-range, and if you can keep it up in the rev range, it wasn't too bad, but the FA24 added a ton of mid-range torque and an additional 20 to 30 wheel horsepower, and that really matters in a class where you're talking about 220, 230 wheel. The GR86 with nothing done to it will dyno around 210, so you're almost there. Add an intake and exhaust, you're in pretty good shape. Here's Josh Hulka again, the street class championship leader, and he's gone to the top step already. No surprise there, a 137.879. And as far as track records, I imagine we're probably pretty close to it. Not quite. 134.864 is what he's chasing this weekend. So, and that was Luca Barberis set back in 2023.
Wow. Okay, so it's been sitting a little bit then, and I didn't see if Thomas Hulka, he's not out in this session. Probably coming out a little bit later on, a bit further in the pack.
Yeah, actually, I'm surprised. I would have thought he would have been out here in Group C, and he was supposed to be. So
okay.
I don't see him, or haven't seen him on track just yet. But that's a father and son duo. They shipped their cars over with Turn-In Concepts, which has quite a pack of cars down there in the paddock here this weekend. Also supporting Azmath Muhammad with 2 entries, one in TrackBattle and one in Eibach GLTC. They've got Peter Zhang's Eibach GLTC car, Mark Kilgore's Street GT class car, Andy Vogel's Rush SR car. So they've got a lot of cars under the trailer over there.
Yeah, that's a lot of work over the weekend too, and it's always great when you start seeing people helping out other people when it comes to either just different series, different classes, or whatever. But what I've noticed, especially with the more competitors, getting a little bit of wheel hop. It sounded like they're coming through the corkscrew, getting over some of those rumble strips. But as you start to divide your focus as a team, you often start to see results start to come down. It may be in the beginning, it gets a little bit better because you've got that shared knowledge about track setup, but as you want to get more competitive, you got to keep your focus on what you're doing and what your car's doing.
Yeah, no pickup there for Hulka in the 777 that time through. And again, as far as as far as the classes we were looking for. Tom Halka was out there, just ran a 2:02.682.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if he was just uncomfortable or was feeling something wrong. That's not really the lap time that we were expecting to see out of that number 7. So he had an injury to his ankle earlier in the year, all the way back at, right before Carolina Motorsports Park, and he's been sort of working back up to pace all season long. So hopefully he'll take some learnings, maybe some data from this session, and move on to Heat 2 a little bit later today and pick up some time. But checkered flag here for Group C, Jacob. So Halka has already picked up the checker, but do a nice fast cool down lap for us.
Yeah, might as well end that way, and we can start to see. I mean, it's not sounding like a cool down lap here. It should be, but might as well use that last little bit of free air to try and see where the car is sitting before bringing it back to the pits and just checking over everything and maybe making a couple of adjustments as we get things wrapped up here in this group and start to head on to the next pack and just start increasing in speed as well. And I mean, it is great to see how everything is separated out between these different sessions, but for folks at home and for people first time watching this, it maybe gets a little bit confusing, but it's based on right now the time that they think they're going to be able to put down.
Yeah, and of course Group B is going to be our next category, or our next group I should say, and we're going to see a lot more of the street mod class. We're going to see a number of our only a couple track mod cars, but we're also going to see some unlimited and most of our super unlimited group as well. Now, for those that aren't familiar with super unlimited, we don't see a lot of these cars throughout the year. Our unlimited class is reserved for cars with a VIN or cars that are largely similar to cars that have VINs. Super unlimited is for basically two-frame crazy stuff. If you brought in a GTP car from IMSA, that's where it would land.
Yeah, I mean closer to more of the prototype side of things. So you'll see some pretty crazy things. You're also going to start to see maybe a bit different of a line through some of these cars because the tire regulations are so lax in that category. So you might start seeing some really interesting things. And I think what's neat about this as well is it gives a lot of these other drivers something to chase when it comes around coming around the track. It also provides a bit of inspiration as well because you start to go, you know what, I'm not that far off the pace. If I was in that car, I could be beating that lap record. So well, I do think every time that these cars start to pop up, you start to hear murmurs of what if how much are they really? You know, marketplace opens up and people start looking at some pretty crazy chassis, and we've seen it year over year where people start making jumps into new chassis, especially when we get some of these incredible builds out on track.
And there's a number of cars in this super unlimited category that are worth talking about. There's going to be some towards the pointy end of this run group and some towards the trailing end. Drivers like Jeremiah Burton from Big Time. They've got basically a Camaro Trans Am car that'll be running out there in super unlimited. Scott Birdsall's here. I don't even know what Scott is driving, but it's going to be something crazy from Chuckles Garage. I did see a Legends car with Aero down there, so maybe it'll be that thing. And we've also got Robin Shute here this weekend and Cody Vaschholz with a couple Pikes Peak class cars, but they're going to be out in Group A. So going to be an interesting one. We'll keep an eye on the ticker with all of those groups as the speeds pick up quite a bit and the sounds will get a little louder here on track with some of the cars exceeding 600, 700, and 800 horsepower here in this group.
Yeah, and the power, I mean, is going to be massive. As we talked a little bit before, there is some elevation here. There's going to be maybe a little bit of retuning, a little bit of remapping, especially as we get into the classes where that's a little bit more open, and that's happening a little bit more often when the laptops start coming out and you've really got to get this track dialed in. And then even with the track temps changing as well, we're picking up temp pretty quick as the sun now starting to rise overhead, starting to beat down on a few of these cars, but track temps coming up a little bit as well. Might start seeing, you know, some better contact, and getting the temp into those tires is a little bit more important now.
Especially if you're on slicks or, you know, 60 treadwear tires, which is what your limit is for the track mod category. We did see Jeremiah Burton out there in the Big Time Trans Am car. That thing's wicked cool, and good to have Big Time out with us here this weekend, along with a number of other YouTubers and sort of influencers that you might have heard about before. There's Joshua Briggs, I believe, in his unlimited Miata, and then this car I don't believe is unlimited. It might be a street mod car, if I can get a look at the stickers on it here, but we're going to see pretty interesting groups start to lay some lap times down here in just a moment.
Yeah, interesting builds, interesting cars, and as we talked about, interesting people, and it's neat too. You can have a big name and be a big celebrity somewhere, but when it comes to the track, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, here comes, there's Danny Aitken as well. That's another Pikes Peak car, the Chevrolet SS behind him.
starting to see the big arrow coming out as well, and maybe some different things.
A little off there for the BMW. Cal Fortner, one of our Street Mod Championship contenders, is chasing him as well. Is that? Didn't get a look at that car. It's not Mark Kilgore. That's a Street GT car. This is a Street Mod BMW. And again, learning new names and faces here this weekend. That purple M2 is gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, I believe factory color on that as well, and just interesting. Hey, listen, everybody loves the classic red or a black car, but I mean, let's just go for the fun color options, right?
Jamie Santos is out there as well. He's been a story a lot, but again, here's that super unlimited Camaro we talked about, and you know, we're not necessarily treated to factory race cars all the time here at GRIDLIFE, so kind of fun to see this, and this is from a bygone era of Trans Am racing. And just really, really neat to see this put together. And I think this is Jeremiah's first time taking this car to a scored event. So we'll see how he does here this week with Danny Aitken right behind him in that Pikes Peak Chevy SS. It's basically a NASCAR body with some aero, and I don't know what's underneath it, but bodywork is from a stock car.
Do you think there's more pressure on a driver with some notoriety to come out and immediately do well, even though maybe they don't have as much experience?
Yeah, maybe a little pressure, especially when you're going up against a handful of cars that look like they came out of a space station. And, you know, for Jeremiah Burton, I'm not sure that there's a lot of pressure or stress on this event. There was a lot of drivers, actually, that showed up and they said, you know, I probably could class this car in Unlimited, but I would rather be in Super Unlimited to compete against all my buddies.
Oh, interesting.
And so that we've seen that a little bit here this weekend. But look at this. This is what an iconic duo this is on track right now. So GM factory race car stuff, nose to tail.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we threw a little bit of a different color balance on the camera right now, it would be a bygone era for sure. We might have to go back to some heavier accents as we talked about yesterday. Let's swap back over to the old style of announcing.
Yeah, so here comes Aitken and Burton. They've swapped positions here. So first lap times for the weekend for them, a 45 for Aitken. And Burton, I don't see scored. It must not have a transponder that, oh, there it goes, 146.472. So a couple tenths off from each other. And then Jamie Santos went to the top of Street Mod pretty early on, a 133.069. And as far as track records in Street Mod this weekend, we're chasing in rear-wheel drive a 133.279. So hello, track record, already broken this morning.
Yeah, that didn't take long. As you were listing that off, I'm like, I might have to append that one pretty quick. So yeah, Santos already jumping on that, and for Mirage, probably not far off either.
Yeah, Fortner a 134.404. I really imagine that Fortner and Santos would have been the ones I would have highlighted. Here's Jamie in the 82 car. It looks like he's on a cool down at the moment, just judging by the engine sound. But Jamie and Cal are battling for third in the Track Battle Street Mod standings. And looks like he's just ahead of one of the GR Supras. We've got a full course yellow on track here. Not sure what for and where.
You're not picking it up from our vantage point up here. We're kind of on the front straight, overlooking this beautiful track. But yeah, I'm not
seeing trucks dispatched over towards turn 6. So not exactly sure what's going on up there. And there's a good look at Luca Barberis also. He's our track record holder in the street class in all-wheel drive, but this is a street mod car that he's running this year, and that is car stopped. And look, does it have a flat there on the right? Is that why it's
looking a little dipped down, a little tough to tell from this vantage point exactly what chassis we're looking at.
It's a C5, it looks like.
Yeah.
Again, learning names and faces with, oh, it is the Ferrari. It looks like it's the 244 GTK. Thank you. There's a nice silver, got information from the truck. Silver Ferrari badge on the back. That would be Mike Burrows in the 244 GTK from Stanceworks. And it's stanced a little to the right there,
Yeah. I didn't see what wheel and tire package he went for, but it was probably something spicy, and maybe not the sidewall he should have been running, but we'll see there. It doesn't look like a bad blowout. But
just in my defense, guys, people to check on it's the Ferrari. We got a little glare on our monitor here, so
there you go.
It's a dark car, and I'm looking at the glare. So it is again the Ferrari 244 GTK.
I can just pick out the dancing horse there. So
and you know, honestly, he did a nice job getting off track in the runoff area, so it should be a pretty easy pickup here, and we should get back green here in just a couple of moments. But this will hold us up here in Group B just a little bit. See, Josh Briggs also in that unlimited class Miata did not get a lap time on the board, so went out and right back in.
That is never good. It's never good. So hopefully nothing too bad. Maybe just something small, but you never know. There's too many moving parts in these vehicles to diagnose it that quick.
And so we mentioned the street mod points. Let's have a look at those here in a second and talk a little bit about the Fortner versus Jamie Santos battle here while we're waiting for this cleanup to happen, because none of them are in competing for the title here, because as you'll see, Dewey DeWitt there, he has already locked up the championship with a perfect 104 points. The battle for second, you know, Ryan Matthews still has that pretty locked down, but look at Santos and Fortner, third and fourth, only 2 points separate them. So whoever beats the other this weekend will likely be in position to keep that spot going into pit race next month. So Jamie and Cal, they're both probably going to get to podium sprint if they don't have any problems. So it's going to come down there. And also, don't count out Luca Barberis with a nice weekend here in that GR Supra. He's not that far out.
Yeah, no, I mean, not far at all, and definitely well within striking distance. But yeah, crazy to see Dewey once again, I mean, locking things in. An absolute legend. If you've never watched any of this before, there's so many very interesting Dewey interviews, as well as just a great guy to be around in the pits.
So, yeah, Dewey, he's got the pirate flag in hand there as well, looking up. Everyone was going, what is he looking at? He's looking at the points total, which is perfect. 4 event wins and 4 track records is the best you can do in this championship. It's only been done 2 or 3 times before. Okay. So he's already off to a pretty good start. He's already locked up his second championship. Last time he won Street Mod, 2023. 2024 was a tough season for the boogeyman, as we call it. But cars are still circulating. Now let's talk a little bit about the process and procedure here. In the past, including last year, I believe, maybe we did this last year as well here, I can't remember, but we would have black flagged the session and drivers would have been required to come to pit lane and stop in a pit stall and wait for the track to be cleared. We now do something called the time attack pace car, time attack safety car. And basically we treat this like a full course yellow in a race where we dispatch a safety car and everyone will just basically pack up behind it. Now the difference between this and a wheel-to-wheel safety car is you're not required to catch the car ahead of you. You are free to get your own space and you can restart kind of in your own area of the racetrack, but people kind of naturally end up in this line of cars. Yeah. So, you know, when we get back green, I think you have to be conscious of who you're around, because we're not ordered the same way as when we drop the green at the start of the session. Yeah, and you would think that they should be lined up pretty much in pace order, but that may not be the case depending on who is running a flyer at that point in time, who is maybe doing a cool down or even a warm-up lap. You can take a look at a couple of different drivers on that strategy at this point. So it'll be interesting to see. And then with the multi-class part of it, it may be advantageous to get behind a driver with a ton of aero, able to punch through the air a little bit better for you. If you're in maybe a slower class, this could actually be a massive opportunity to be able to tuck in behind somebody that's able to just take all that drag out of the car for you. That can certainly help. I think it's a little tricky here outside of the front straightaway to really utilize the draft and not get held up by the car if they're wildly different. So I think drivers like Jamie and Cal Fortner could take advantage of that a little bit, because we know they're pretty similar in pace. But again, this first session, you're learning so many of the drivers around you that I think there's more of a risk in that than a reward. By the way, Luca Barberis just jumped to a 131.346 in Street Mod right before that yellow came out, and that is only 1/10 off of the overall Street Mod record held by Dewey DeWitt and back in 2023. So again, this first session has been really fast. Yeah, this has been quick right off the gate, as we see in that tow truck taking the corkscrew himself. That's got to be a little bit weird. With another car on the back too. Yeah, I'm sure they're used to it, but it's still a little strange to see a flatbed come through the corkscrew. There's a look at your Street Mod track records at the top of your screen there. Cal Fortner held the rear-wheel drive record until Jamie Santos broke it a little while ago. Then Luca Barberis just beat him. So the rear-wheel drive record has now been shifted in favor of well, that's interesting. Where did Barberis show up on the scoring? I don't think his class is set right, because we should see him at the top of Street Mod there. Again, first session things, I'm sure that'll get sorted out here for the next session. Real slow into turn 11 here for all these cars. Like 20, 30 miles an hour as they try to figure out how to keep their space behind the safety car. I think Larry Chen might have been out there as well in his Street Mod Toyota GR86. We have a green flag back in the air though. So we're going to be back underway, this time by the start-finish line. Yeah, Larry Chen with looks like a 148.5, so a little bit more work to do, but we'll more than likely see him out a little bit later on with the camera car. Barberis is listed as a street class entry. That'll get corrected a little bit later today. I think that's some old data from when he had his Evo on track. Gotcha. He was one of the drivers that won every event that he could have won last year, and was one of the 104-point drivers in 2024. So he moved up to Street Mod this year in that GR Supra. There's another look at Jeremiah Burton in the big-time Camaro. Again, you know, this is a driver that's just coming up to speed. I think he's on slicks as well. That's another thing, if you're not used to driving on slicks. And Jeremiah does have some racing experience, including in SRO's TC America series. See his best lap of 1:44.394, but he ran in TC America in a Honda Civic Type R for some time, and so he does have some experience on slick tires in racing environments. But this is a car that he owns, or at least big time owns.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit more risk involved anytime you take your own car on the racetrack.
Yeah, I think you're going to drive it a little bit differently, and for some drivers they'll drive it a little bit harder because they're like, you know what, it's mine. I don't, you know, let's just go for it. Whereas when you're borrowing it or it's for a bit of a demo or an exhibition, you want to be able to hand it back in relatively the same condition that you received it in. So, see, we get a spotlight there on Cal Fortner out front.
Jeremiah coming back around here. Again, Cal Fortner will probably get one more good lap. I don't think they're going to give him too much time in this session here. So they might get 2 more laps before we get the checker. Up onto the front straightaway. See that little extra green, that's all fair game here. Danny Aitken picked up a little time, 1:37.164 in the Chevy SS. Burton, actually a little pickup there on that lap. And Azmat Muhammad and TrackMod as well in that Z06 Corvette C8, a 1:36.230. TrackMod track record is a 1:29.28, so a little ways to go there in the class with the orange stickers.
And still not seeing Briggs out there, no time yet, so I haven't seen him pop up on our screens either, so maybe whatever that mechanical was a little bit worse than what he was hoping for, not a quick fix, so he's going to have to, at this point, I don't know if he'll be able to make it back out to get a lap time in, so this might be a scrap session for him.
There's Luca Barberis giving a nice point by there. The other thing for this Camaro, no traction control, no ABS. This is V8 rear-wheel drive, analog everything.
Yeah, that's just a pure driver, car, track, and nothing else.
Yeah, I bet you this is such a fun car to drive around here.
I'll bet you it's spicy.
Yeah.
You're gonna know everything that car is doing, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, here comes Danny Aitken in that Chevy SS. There's Cal Fortner in your street mod entry. Azmat Muhammad in the Z06 Turn-In Concepts car. Azmat was here last year with, I think it was the debut for this machine in track mod competition. Doesn't bring it out all that much, but has elected to bring it this time around.
That's one of those, you're putting on the good suit for the big party, right?
Yeah. And he's also running an Eibach GLTC this weekend and a K-Series MR2 Spider. So,
oh, wow.
Talk about going from A to B, huh?
Yeah. I mean, both of them a bit of a handful in just very different ways.
So across the stripe here for Muhammad. Let's see if he'll pick up on that 36. Cal Fortner just jumped up to a 1:32.795. Of course, Barberis had that 1:31 and seemed pretty happy with that. So Fortner now will be second in street mod once we have that class correction for Barberis. And Muhammad working his way by Fortner, who seems to be off the pace. Carving through traffic here again in this first session. You're just getting used to everybody around you. And we'll probably see a lot of shifting once we get to Heat 2 this afternoon.
Yeah, I'll be definitely different packs. I'll have to rearrange all the papers in my desk where everybody is at that point.
In the Chevrolet Corvette, this newest generation, what a spectacular bit of performance. You even offered in the Stingray variant. You step up to the Z06, you're getting a lot more power and a lot more performance as far as aero. But you know, the ZR1X, there was a lot of conversation around its time at the Nürburgring and the Ford Mustang GTD and the Porsche 911, you know, GT2 RS and all these cars that are sort of aiming for this Nürburgring lap time. The ZR1X has over 1,000 horsepower. We haven't seen one yet, obviously, because I don't think they're out yet. But they're crazy cars, and it's basically, you know, the same chassis as the Z06. You're just talking more and more and more power. So if you can really extract some with some bolt-ons in something like track mod, these things are absolute weapons.
Well, I think we're entering into a new golden age of racing with a bit more OEM support. I mean, Ford's back. They put a kind of a big statement out there by switching over branding and everything else, just to go, this isn't performance anymore. This is racing. And you know, Chevrolet getting a little bit spicy, saying, hey, you did all this under perfect conditions with all these drivers and, you know, expert people behind the wheel. We gave this to some technicians and we're still crushing track records, so come at me for it. And when there's competition at that level, we all win, because the trickle down is going to be incredible.
I love when manufacturers fight.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe BMW has to step up again and be like, okay, we want to get back into this battle, and who else comes into it. You think about early 90s with JDM and what that produced, some of the greatest Japanese cars we've ever seen. Could this be something very, very similar?
Checkered flag here at Group B, so we'll just finish up the lap time around here. And Scott Hollingsworth asking in the chat, is 1:31.001 should be a new street mod record? The answer is yes. Of course, Barbaros is misclassed right now on the timing and scoring, so we'll have to get that sorted. But yes, that is a new track record for street mod. It's just, you know, at this stage in the weekend, it's exciting to see the record broken, but it feels to me almost premature to make a big deal out of it, because we're going to see them fall so many more times this weekend.
Yeah, it's one of those, you note it and you go, cool, you did a great job, but don't rest on your laurels and make sure that car is ready to go, because they're going to keep coming down.
You cannot rest. I mean, if you get a track record here, you're going to go, okay, great, we're going to go 3 seconds faster by the end of the weekend. So it's a note for everybody, and it's impressive for sure. But again, I just think by the time we get to Heat 6 on Sunday morning, we're going to see cars go significantly quicker. And then again, we're going to wipe all the lap times when we get to podium sprint. And if you want to win the weekend, you have to perform then in the heat of the day after the drifters have been on track. So it's going to be tough to improve on your lap time in podium sprint, but that's where the trophy's handed out. So they're sort of two separate things, the record and the trophy. It's not quite like traditional time attack. You have a little bit of duality. What do you want more? Do you want the record, or are you going to use all your fresh tires in the mornings, or are you going to save a set for that podium sprint and for the points and the trophy?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. Interesting you bring up on the drift side of things. What is the general reception from the drivers here about that extra rubber being put down on track?
Well, so here's sort of a mixed bag with drivers sort of that are not stoked about the track conditions never being that good, but then other drivers that are saying, you know, we're all on the same racetrack together. It doesn't really matter how much grip the racetrack has. There's certainly some purists that want the track to be grippy and sticky all the time,
right,
but that's just not going to happen at an event where you've got so much else going on. And the draw of the spectators is the combination of everything, and so it brings a lot of attention to time attack. So, you know, do you really want the track to be perfect all the time if nobody else is here? That's a test session to me, right? It's not an event. So I'm happy to have drivers figure out how to navigate it. Again, the cool thing about GRIDLIFE is when you do break one of those records, it's in spite of the track conditions.
Right. That's fair enough. Yeah. So you're doing it with maybe one arm tied behind your back, and just adds a little bit more to it. Just a little bit more of a sauce on top, just to be able to prove your point that, like, no, I really am, despite everything, the fastest around this track.
So we've got one more group coming up. It'll be Group A. We'll be following that with a little bit of drift coverage, and then we'll take a break here on YouTube. The broadcast is going to go down for a little bit. We'll fire back up for the second heat of the day. So there's more links for you to follow. Just make sure you subscribe to the GRIDLIFE channel so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell to be notified. It's cool that they have that feature, so that you'll never miss it again. So on the very front of this next group, there is a Wolf TCS FS. That is Robin Shute in his Pikes Peak Hill Climb car, and a 4-time King of the Mountain of the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb, an event that I've had the pleasure to announce the last 3 years. And Robin this year actually didn't compete in this car. He was competing in Mike Dussault's Chevrolet Camaro, which is also here in this group. So it'd be fun to see Robin go up against Mike. But this car is capable of sub 1 minute 15 second lap times around here. So we're about to see some unbelievably quick times, and I don't even know if we have super unlimited times registered in our track record book. We do not, but I'll have to go back and find what he did in a moment. The fastest track record in one of our official classes is a 1:21.177 by Ben Sloss in a Ford GT, one of those crazy, very limited production Ford GTs. But Shute did faster than that, and I think it was back in 2023, I want to say. It was here at Laguna Seca.
Yeah, I think he's just going for the overall track record period. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. I mean, it'll be interesting either way. But yeah, the Wolf TCS FS, so a very, very spicy car.
1:10.920 is the answer. That's how fast he went back in 2023. It's actually TSC FS, my mistake there. But Robin ran a 1:12.4 in the podium sprint, but a 1:10.920 in qualifying, which is unbelievably fast. That is a full 21 seconds faster around this racetrack than anyone has gone so far today, to give you a perspective.
Wow. Yeah, that is definitely wild. Looks like we're waiting on one more car to come off track. Just peeking out of our vision there.
I think it might be. Is that? I thought it might have been Danny Aitken, but it doesn't appear to be. But they're following it with the silver truck, so we should be good to go here in just a moment. It is Danny Aitken in the 422 Chevrolet. Giving it some pushes down the hill. Looks like it's lacking some drive at the moment.
Good eyes on you. We barely got a spot on that car. You nailed it.
It's got a pretty unique rear wing on that thing. So
Fair enough.
You almost don't need to see the rest of it, to be honest. Love the Talladega Nights livery too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a sucker for a great livery. I really, really am. I think it's important to the heritage of racing. I think it's a great way for drivers to be able to express themselves in a unique way, and ultimately partners love it too. They just you want that funding. Everybody's here chasing that funding.
Look at the shot from the top down there from Max, our drone pilot, giving us a perspective of inside that cockpit. And again, this thing is so light and makes so much power. And around Pikes Peak, or up Pikes Peak, I should say. I always, talk about Pikes Peak is not a circuit.
No.
It goes up and only up, so you can't do another lap. And I said in my intro there last year, it's at Pikes Peak there is no lap 2 or 50 or 500. You got to get it done in one go. And here he's going to have more opportunities than that. And I really hope to see him run this car a lot this weekend, because if his only goal is to win the event, he only has to do 2 laps. But everybody here wants to see this thing do 50 of them.
Yeah, it'll be tough to say. I mean, I want to see it out in every session for sure, but I completely also understand if it's like, come out, crank this, then come back and run the sprint and go from there.
Yeah, and Robin is the only car on grid right now, which is interesting to me because there's a whole bunch of others that are on track, and I wonder almost if they're going to give him a lap on his own, because that car is so much quicker than everything else that they'll basically just end up releasing him into the back of the field as they're releasing. So they might stagger this a little bit, but they've got a couple other cars that are showing up to grid now. Here they come. There's Mike Dussault there at the top of the screen, that red Camaro. Gabe Zamora in that Porsche 911. He was battling the podium sprint last year for TrackMod, had an epic battle with our track record holder, Brad Perkins. And they'll all be going up against Jackie Ding in the blue M2 at the top of that shot as well. And Jackie, once again, second isn't going to do it this weekend. He needs to win and get a track record if he wants this event to matter at all for his championship hopes. Here comes Robin Shute out on the racetrack.
I think he might have nailed that. No, they are releasing a few other cars there. Okay. So we'll see how he's able to do it. Might have to get that warm-up in, back up a little bit, and then go for it.
Honestly, they should have kept Danny Aitken out there so we could do that. Are those the other cars?
Yeah.
Robin, that's what Robin's going to look like here in a moment, and he'll have to warm these slick tires up as well. I think these are Yokohamas on this car, but they're not crazy wide, so they should be able to generate some temperature in about a lap.
Already seeing a little bit of weaving back and forth to try and get some temp into those, and have to bring those temps in correctly so nothing crazy ends up happening with the rubber, but we'll see if he's able to get that flyer in. And I think everybody else in this class will probably be on notice to be checking their mirrors and understand, hey, you might see something crazy coming flying up behind you, so just keep an eye out.
Yeah, there's Mike Dussault in the Chevrolet Camaro. It's 1967, or what's left of it under there. 2,000 horsepower in that car. That's another Pikes Peak entry. That is actually the car that Robin Shute drove at Pikes Peak this year in the Unlimited class.
Great body style, beautiful looking car, and then with all that horsepower, I don't know how much original steel is going to be left on that vehicle. I haven't had a chance to really go and inspect it, but interesting build to say the least.
Yeah, so we'll follow Robin Shute there in the pointy end car. There he is. I meant pointy end like first on the field, but also it literally has a pointy end. So that, and again, we're expecting this car to be I would say in the first session, if he runs a 118 or less, I'd say that's cooking.
Yeah, and then that'll still have far more to go left in that vehicle.
Yeah, here we go. First lap for Robin Shute this weekend in the Pikes Peak Hill Climb Wolf TSC FS. Down into turn 2 here, Andretti hairpin. Looks like he might just be sort of warming it up here in this first lap, but the thing is so pointy.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely getting on throttle and picking up a decent amount of pace, but I'm not quite sure if this is going to be quite the record breaker that maybe we were hoping for right off the bat.
No, and I think just making sure it feels good and he's got everything, up to temperature. The slick tires will offer performance well into this run, but I agree with you. I don't think this is quite the full on it lap just yet.
I think that bit of coast that we saw coming through the hairpin was a good indicator for me, where I'm like, nah, he's got a lot more left in this. So I bet you the lap time will still be very impressive, but knowing how much more he's got to put back into this car.
It just made that back straight up to the corkscrew not look like a straight, though. It was
no.
It just went away real fast down the corkscrew here, and definitely coasting down the hill now. So we'll see if he'll pick up. Here's what I was talking about, though, is he's going to have some traffic almost immediately. And so that he'll have something to contend with. If he hits pit lane, we're going to pick up a couple other cars. It looks like he is going to do just that. So let's pick up somebody else.
Yeah, so just probably a shakedown on that one.
So, looks like Schutt's going to pull into the box, and we're going to pick up Mike Dussault in the number, I think he's number 57 here this week, and he should be showing up here on the front stretch in just a moment's time. And Mike Dussault, that 1967 Camaro, has done over 200 miles an hour on the front straight at Road America. It is a ridiculously fast car. First lap of the day, a 1:27.706 for Mike Dussault. And there's Sean Bassett in the Datsun, and Dussault should be approaching turn 4 right about now. There's Mike on screen. And we'll see if he'll come back around here into this next shot. But Mike Dussault, again, he's a frequent competitor with us at the GRIDLIFE Track Battle Championship in the unlimited category. And Jonathan Grace caught up with him a little earlier to chat about him and his car.
Here with Mike Dussault, one of the crazier unlimited cars that you're going to see anywhere on track at Laguna. You've been here before, but I think your goals this weekend are maybe to build and improve on last weekend in this pretty incredible car.
Yeah, the main goal today is just kind of shake the car down, get a feel for the track, and effort towards no big mistakes. Try and run every session, and then kind of build on that and go for time tomorrow.
You were telling me before we went live, this is a project you've been working on for a little over a decade. Tell me about some of the new additions and what you're looking to improve on this weekend.
So the big additions are we've been working with Robin Schutt on a bunch of aero stuff with him and the guys at Virus, and the whole aero platform is different than it was last year. So kind of dialing that in and getting a feel for how does that work with this surface, because this track is kind of its own thing. It's got, the dust, and it's got a little bit of a different surface to it. So trying to get a feel for that without risking it all early is kind of the goal, because a lot of times I'll get in the car, get the red mist, try to go too fast, and then make mistakes. So I've been telling myself over and over, take it easy, take it easy, take it easy. Just go out there, get some laps, and get used to things.
What's it like behind the wheel at a racetrack like Laguna Seca? You've got the corkscrew, you have the dust, you have a lot of high-speed corners in something with this much aero.
It's a super fun, iconic track. I mean, it's almost like you got to pinch yourself when you're at Laguna, because it's just such a cool track, which is why we drive all the way out here from Texas. But yeah, it's a ton of fun. And last year was a little bit of a letdown because we did have, I was trying to get too greedy with the painted surface after turn 11, and my diff just couldn't take it, and it broke the diff, and then that just led to a cascade of problems. So this year, stay off the paint, give it up a little bit, and then just really enjoy the track and the experience and just build up to it. Because a car like this, we're running it at 1,300 wheel horsepower this weekend, and with the low grip surface and a lot of power, you just have to be careful.
Well, best of luck this weekend, Mike. One of the craziest and I think most fun cars that you'll see here.
Thanks.
Mike Dussault in that number 57, always a pleasure to watch. And you'll note also, we talked about Robin Schutt. We saw him pit in, but as far as the Pikes Peak competitors here this weekend, or drivers that have experience on Pikes Peak, 4 of the top 5 in this group have run Pikes Peak, including Cody Vaschultz, who's on track at his number 118. Here he is, and this is a custom Ford-powered Vaschultz, built open wheel, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
This thing is crazy, and this is another Pikes Peak Hill Climb open wheel category car.
It feels like a mixture of so many different racing classes all in one. I mean, I can see a little bit of dirt track inspiration in this as well, and yeah, this is nuts.
And a 129.370, revving out all the way to the top here, and on the brakes into turn 1.
Got that gearing set perfect for that front straight, able to just top it out. Quick little pop off the limiter and then right on the brakes. So he's got this dialed in for Laguna.
He sure does. And top of Super Unlimited. And again, we don't normally have 5 Super Unlimited cars, but here we are. And so Vass Schultz, Aitken, and Scott Birdsall, who's here as well. And sort of, I think it's a Legends car with Aero. I saw that car in the paddock, and I did not think that was going to be on track, but indeed it is. Robin Schutt's also back out there at turn 11 right now. He's coming back to a checker, though, so he's not going to get any more laps to run on his own. But Cody Vass Schultz leading in Super Unlimited. And look at Track Mod Unlimited and Super Unlimited, all within a couple seconds of each other. So these top 3 categories are really, really close.
Yeah, this is, as you said, like we're pretty tight all the way through this, and pretty big specification changes between those classes. So it kind of shows you that there's multiple ways to get to the top when it comes to timing here, and you can do it in things that are as wild as this or as tame as something you can kind of just buy right off the dealership. So really, really interesting to see just how tight this grouping is.
Yeah, so there's Cody. He's knocked off the pace now. And we'll try to get you a look at the Chuckles Garage Legends car. And again, that's Scott Birdsall. If you're familiar with him from Pikes Peak, you would have recognized his diesel his diesel truck, which I think was a Ford.
Yeah, F100, I believe.
Yeah, and that was there in 2023 when that car had a big accident off the side of the mountain. But Chuckles Garage, here he is, Scott Birdsall. Again, California brings the weirdest stuff, and I love it.
Yeah, they say keep Austin weird, but I think it's keep California weird at this point. Yeah, those Legends cars, I mean, they are very, very tough, tiny little wheelbase on them, trying to get any of the grip you can out of it. This car is not meant to do this by any means. No, they're real good at going left, and having to get it to do this, it's interesting. The other part too is there's almost no room in the cockpit in those. It's very, very tight. If he gets into an incident here, there's not a lot that's protecting unit, so it's a bit of a risk. But obviously meeting all the specifications when it comes to safety, and we'll see what he's able to do with that big front and rear wing that he's got going on in that car. I mean, that's just interesting. I would love to see what you could do further with this chassis, whether it's some fairing work on it to cut down some of the wheel drag, but maybe this is it, because they're coming down in price, man.
I got to send Jonathan over to get a look at that thing, because I just saw it in the paddock, and I didn't know that we would even see a car like that out here. But regardless, looks like our first track battle heat of the day is checker. So let's have a look here at our results for all of our categories. We're going to start with what we began the session with, which was a Falcon Club SC here in just a moment's time, and kind of go through our results for each of the groups that we've had on course. And again, we're going to see times get faster and faster and faster throughout the weekend here as the cars roll back into the pit lane, and they're going to all debrief and get set up for the rest of the day here in a moment's time. But drift getting set up here in just a moment, Jacob, so we'll cover a little bit of that before we have a short break here on the broadcast.
Yeah, a little bit of a change-up on that one between you and I. This is where I'll be able to help you out with a few things, and yeah, it's interesting. We've already got Matt Field out there in that brand new Corvette. Seeing more and more mid-engine and even rear-engine stuff popping out now that the technology within drifting has allowed drivers to experiment a little bit more. We saw mid-engine and rear-engine cars early 2000s, pretty early on in the history of drifting, but I don't think the technology was there to be able to support it, but we're seeing that now, and it'll be interesting if mid-engine ever becomes kind of the meta, if you will, in drifting.
Let's have a look at our highlights here from Track Battle session number 1 here at WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. It all began earlier in the day with Group D. As the cars rolled out on the racetrack, we were focused primarily on Falcon Club SC, but there was a lot of drivers that were local here, some that have driven all the way across the country. Mike Jansen struggling with the brakes in his Honda Civic to start the day. A number of Falcon Club TR cars also getting up to speed before we moved on to Group C, and saw a bunch of street class drivers out there as well, Jacob.
Yeah, great sessions to get things going. As we talked about pretty much through the whole thing, some drivers electing to really get those track records in early, some of them deciding to kind of hold off and maybe just break in the car a little bit more, but it's competitive right off the bat, that's for sure.
Yeah, and then in Group B, we saw most of our street mod drivers head out on the racetrack. We saw records reset early on in Club SC, but also in street mod. Luca Barberis at the top of the standings, a little off there for one of the BMWs ahead of Cal Fortner. Jeremiah Burton on track with Danny Aitken, a couple of Super Unlimited entries joining us here this weekend, as that class is going to be well sorted, along with a bunch of unlimited class cars like Mike Dussault. Gabe Zamoro's back in track mod to battle Jackie Ding there. We'll cover that a little bit more throughout the weekend. We have 6 heats. We'll have 5 more. Robin Schutt went on the racetrack, didn't get a lap time here in this first session, just ran an out lap and an in just to check the tire pressures stretches and things before the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, and already impressive seeing what he's able to do, and then swapping things over to Berzal with that Legends car. It'll be really interesting to see what kind of times he's able to put down in that vehicle. Maybe a more technical track, it really would have been able to stretch its legs, but for right now, it's looking pretty cool, and it will just gain a lot of attention and maybe inspire some people to do something else crazy.
All right, that'll be Track Battle Heat 1 complete here from WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca.
These are my race treads for when the road ends.
These are my race treads for shredding the slopes.
These are my race treads for setting the hook.
Racetreads.com. Tires for every adventure.
All of us have little kids in us when we jump on Forza and we grab a drift car and head to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, but this time we do it for real. For the third year in a row, GRIDLIFE Laguna Festival takes to the hills and thrills of Laguna Seca. Kyle Heyer joined by Jacob Gettins, and we're on track for our first drift session of the weekend.
Yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, going through all the time attack stuff has been awesome. I'm super pumped to be doing that, but this is where I get to feel comfortable. This is my zone, so you get to come along for the ride with me on this one, and I appreciate all the help and everything on that first grip session, but now we get to check out some slidey cars.
Yeah, Matt Field out here in the C8. Good to have a lot of familiar names with us here on the drift list, and a lot of pros from Formula Drift or other places as well, but this is not competitive in any way. We're just out here having fun, Jacob, and I like this because it allows drivers to really express themselves in this style sport of drift.
Well, and right now with Matt Field out there in that Corvette, this is a lot of development. You might be looking at what is maybe the future of drifting. So Matt really putting in a lot of time and effort into developing this chassis. He's had conversations about bringing it into pro, making this a pro level car, and by the actual rule book, I believe it's pretty much there. There might be a few changes here or there. There might have to be some adaptation to the rule book to be able to do that, but it'll be interesting to see how that ends up developing over the years, and can already see just I mean beautiful views. So there's Matt kicking that car into the corkscrew. For drift cars, this is really, really interesting to be able to get the car to come up and do that. And I think we got Matt Kaufman, an absolute legend here and in drifting in general, an ex-pro and known for big style and big entries. And before this weekend is out, we'll see what he's kind of made his trademark, which is the massive drive up the front straight and into that Andretti hairpin. I guarantee he's going to pull another one of those off. And you can see just how much smoke they are already making here.
Well, we avoided the marine layer this morning, so we're going to make our own, I think. But, tell me a little bit about drifting on these full track courses, because in a lot of professional championships, the courses that we're using are just segments of a full track and often don't necessarily have the crazy huge elevation that we see at Laguna Seca. So how much adjustment is required to tackle things like the corkscrew or even turn 6 at speed in a drift car?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for these cars is temp management. So you got to remember, these cars are built to maybe only run for 60 seconds at full tilt at a time. So a lot of these drivers and a lot of these pro cars, they only need to keep them cool for that 60-second stint. So it becomes a little bit more difficult when you get to these big tracks, because you want to run every corner, but at the grip and at the power, as we see Dylan Hughes there, that they're able to put down, even in some of these cars. So I believe that's not Dylan's full pro car. They're going to have a party car version of it. They're still going to go through a set of tires in one lap. So it's tough. It's basically them trying to adjust their own personality to come back a little bit to make sure that they're not spending most of it just swapping tires out.
And how much of this, you talk about building a car that's, specific for just hanging out, a party car as you call it. We've seen that a lot here in Grid Life Drift. How much of your personality is wrapped up into a party car versus a pro car where you have, maybe competition to think about? So you're going to build your car maybe a little different than you would otherwise?
Yeah, it's going to be very, very close. A lot of the times these drivers will use these events to be able to get things ready or test out new ideas or try different things before they bring it into a pro car. So there's Corey Hosford in there, the Boss S13. So what they'll end up doing is taking a very similar or the exact same chassis they have in pro, and they'll bring the power down. A lot of them will run the same engine, so that way the power band and everything else is the same, but they'll pull maybe 300 horsepower out. So their pro car, usually 1,000 or more, they'll bring it down to a reasonable 700, and then run that. So Dylan Hughes, great example of this. Odie Bakshi's who's in front of him. Odie is a driver that's doing a lot of work in the development of what is the best way to build a drift car right now. Is it the heavy, high horsepower that we've got, or is it actually better to take a bunch of weight out of it, take some horsepower out of it, and run a slightly smaller tire? And he's got a great video out right now about doing that, where he compared his pro car versus his party car, and same chassis, very similar setups in it, but one has less weight and less power on a smaller tire, and the lap time, which is not something we really look into,
sure,
but the lap time actually was almost identical to his pro car that has about 300 more horsepower, a bigger tire, and a little bit more weight.
Throwing things around here at turn 10. The other thing, when you talk about these big pro tracks, they've got like camber and things in the cornering. How does that affect your angle and things? And is that something that drivers are used to adjusting for, is all the banking in some of these turns?
Yeah, I mean, they run full bank tracks in a few different spots in the series. Seattle being the big one. It's a massive bank. It's about a 15-second run. Saw a red flag pop out. That's no good. Is Matt Field taking the escape road? So we'll see how that plays out. But a lot of these drivers, especially at the pro level, they're used to it. Orlando, OSW, there's Matt Kaufman trying something a little bit crazy going around Hurt. So big lock up there, so he probably got the flag and had to pull out of that. But yeah, a lot of the drivers are very used to it, but they're actually used to a more aggressive bank than what they're probably going to see here. There's, I'm trying to think if there's any tracks that we run that's got a kind of a mild camber to it, but Road Atlanta, I mean, a little bit coming down into the keyhole there, but that's about it. So the one thing with drifters though is like they don't really care what the track is like, because a lot of them started out on go-kart tracks or very small tracks. So we're kind of just used to driving whatever's provided to us, and we'll make the best of it.
Yeah, so see the red flag is out, and I think it's been replaced by a black now, so drivers will be heading back to pit lane here in just a moment's time. Not sure what for, but I do see some safety trucks rolling around. There was something going on in the pit lane as well, so they're going to bring these drivers back on in. And first session of the day, this is a good test flag here, because this is something that we don't really talk about in drift normally, is you don't necessarily have flags controlling the racetrack.
Not really. We're used to a yellow. Oh, we have got some fire extinguishers out. I'm not entirely sure who that was, but
was that a big fire down there? I can't really tell if that
looks big enough.
Yeah,
looks big enough, but yeah, tough to say. We've got a good mix of kind of local legends we've got here. We've also got some of the pros in, some ex-pros as well, some ex-local legends that are coming back into it. So it's a good mix that way. That's Odie Bakshi's there with Dylan Hughes in tow.
Yep.
And then we've got Larry Chen. I mean, we talk about some big body cars from the Trans Am series. We're seeing that a little bit more with the Monte Carlo there. And we are starting to see more development that way as well, where as different generations get into drifting, as some of the older generations actually get into drifting now, they're bringing some of their style into it, which is great. So a few different Monte Carlos, throwback to Fast and Furious with a kind of a Dom replica RX-7, FD RX-7, one of my favorite cars. Not necessarily the best drift car in the world. Rotaries are a little tough to work with when it comes to drifting, and he is followed up there with Forrest Wang, who is an absolute legend. When it comes to the actual stat sheet, maybe not the best career, but one of the drivers that just fan favorite. Every single event you would see a ton of fans out there as we're seeing them all pulling into pit lane.
Yeah, again, we saw the red flag followed by the black flag. So the red flag is an everybody stop flag, and then the black is the you can head back to pit lane, and you can have a black flag pointed at you, and that's that you need to come to pit lane.
See, drifters are used to that.
Yeah.
That's one that they get a lot. They know that one. They know the yellow, and they know the pointed black flag. Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to be getting that session restarted or not, as we see a few drivers coming out there. I think I see, is that Ryan Turk in the 8.6? Not entirely sure if that's, yeah, tough to say. There's a few different 8.6s out there, but usually Turk running that big red gum out one, but getting them back to the start line.
Yeah, they're not going to turn them into the pit box, so it means that we should be able to get them back on track. But Waving Black brought everybody back to pit lane. They're still working their way around. And again, this is actually a great test for the weekend because as you get used to the flagging rules here on these full tracks, it's a good drill almost because throughout the weekend, we're on a big track that needs to dispatch safety trucks a long ways away. So good to kind of learn now where those flag stands are. And I'm sure they'll also probably have a meeting and just rediscuss how the black flag stuff works because it's new. This is different for drivers on a full course. And again, we have a lot of pro drivers here that just, old habits die hard on these big tracks. So again, and this is sort of relatively new. We haven't always flagged a drift before, but on these big tracks, and especially when you're working with facilities like Laguna Seca, always good to have standards built in. And it sounds like we're back underway again.
Yeah, it didn't take long. So drifters are, the car control that you've got within drifting is nuts. And what's always been amazing is seeing some of them jump from drift over into more grip racing, as we call it, and do quite well. And sometimes we'll see people coming out of other racing series, full grip racing series, coming to drifting and then, maybe not having the best perspective on it. Then they come in and try it and they're like, oh, this is significantly harder than we thought. And it's, it's cool. I think it's a skill that a lot of grip racers should learn to do, especially if as a car steps out, to be like, no, you can actually just put the throttle down and drive straight out of this. Now, you're not going to be picking up track time, as we see a bit of a dirt drop there. Not entirely sure who that is. I believe that's the GTO, but yeah, it's a unique skill to have, and I think it's one that no matter what type of racing you're into, learning how to drift properly is a massive benefit, even if it is just to learn how to save a car in a different way than what you're maybe used to.
Yeah, I think my first experience riding in drift car was with Chris Forsberg at Pikes Peak International Raceway, so pretty good place to start,
That's
right?
pretty good, man. That's pretty good.
And what hit me immediately was the expectation that it was going to be a violent ride inside, but it's so coordinated and smooth, and I think that's what hit me, especially in a tandem scenario where I couldn't see anything, but there's sort of like an unspoken dance that's happening out there to be able to see through the smoke to anticipate what your teammate or the driver next to you is doing, and that's a skill that I don't know how you learn it without tearing up 15 cars, or maybe you do.
You do. A lot of the drivers are gonna start in lower horsepower cars, whether it's a stock Z or if you can find a decent priced S13. There's so many chassis you can get into right away, and you just go bang doors with your friends, and that's the big thing. Similar to what we see with like Sunday Cup, where drivers are having to learn that way, and the same trust that you have doing a late braking dive bomb on a buddy is the same trust that drifters have when it comes to tandem. This is where you're supposed to be. This is what I'm expecting you to do, and that gives me the trust to be able to do it. Dooring somebody in drifting when you've got that front wheel on the door, that is a sign of respect. That is not something disrespectful. That is I trust you enough to be able to get that close, in the same way that when you late brake dive bomb a buddy of yours, knowing that what line they're going to be on, it's kind of that sign of respect that I can pull this move because you're where you should be.
Fun to watch, though. Laguna Seca, what a great facility for this as well. Again, I talked at the opening about how we've all done this in Forza, and we've always wanted to drift places like Laguna Seca or Lime Rock or Watkins Glen, and GRIDLIFE is bringing this full course drift experience to tracks all around the country. It's a really unique experience for the drifters, a unique experience for the fans as well. If you're up by the corkscrew, you've got the view of a lifetime. There's a NOS tent up there as well, and if you're here at the racetrack and you see the NOS Energy truck or the tent, they've got NOS Energy for you for free. Just go up and ask for whatever flavor you'd like and give it a go.
That is dangerous.
Yeah, it really is.
Might be necessary for you and I, but that could be dangerous.
All right, let's have a look here at the highlights of the drift session. Short but sweet here this morning. Plenty more coming your way on the tail end of the drifts or the track battle sessions here. So let's have a look back at some of the action we've seen so far. Right from the get on the outlap, already setting for some skids.
Yeah, there's no real warm up when it comes to drifting. You might scrub in the fronts just a little bit, but just to make sure you don't get that understeer, because understeer in a drift car is pretty nuts. You get a view on the Audi, based out of Canada, a driver pushing real hard to get his pro license, and another driver just trying to push a different type of chassis. Now we swap over to an S chassis, something that's a little bit more common in our space, but we're seeing a good change up as things move along as we get into that GTO, another unique chassis. We don't see a ton of those out here. We don't see a lot of them in drifting, but I am a fan of anything strange when it comes to going sideways, that's for sure.
Yeah, you can absolutely explore yourself. There's Larry Chen out there with the Chase Supra. Going to see plenty of that that footage on the GRIDLIFE official Instagram here today, tomorrow, and all weekend long, and after the event as well.
Yeah, and that was Matt Field. I had to give my brain. I think that was Matt Field that was out in that. He's brought both Corvettes. He's got the his more traditional C6 and then the C8 in more or less development. So he might be jumping between chassis, or might have somebody else behind the wheel. I'll have to go ask some questions as we get a bit of a break coming up here.
Yeah, we got more coming your way here from GRIDLIFE Laguna. It's all practice for the wheel-to-wheel stuff today, so we're going to take a break, and we'll be back on a different link on YouTube. If you're on Twitch, you can just hang tight. But 12:45 p.m., that is Pacific time, we'll be back, so it'll be 3:45 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you here shortly for Track Battle Heat 2 and more.
Road ends.
These are my race treads for shredding the slopes.
These are my race treads for setting the hook.
Racetreads.com. Tires for every adventure.